My name is Bob Ortiz. I live in Chestertown on Philosopher's Terrace, and I'm a furniture maker. In 1994, my wife Pam and I had been married for 2 years. We were talking about starting a family. My in-laws, who were getting close to retiring, were talking about, let's do the extended family thing. And so we started looking for places to move to. Pam and I were living in Baltimore at the time. My in-laws were living in Rockville. My in-laws wanted to move to Pennsylvania. I think it had to do with tax issues. I couldn't think of one town in southern Pennsylvania that I had ever driven through that didn't look like it was moribund or on the way down. So I couldn't think of any place that I wanted to live in Pennsylvania. My wife, Pam, who was a legal aid lawyer, didn't want to take another bar exam. So we started thinking about Maryland. And she went to St. Mary's College as an undergraduate, had a professor there, Bill Ingersoll's brother, who was an anthropology professor who always spoke nicely about Chestertown. So we went one weekend to Easton, and my in-laws living in Rockville said, nope, Route 50 is going to turn this into another Rockville Pike. So we came into Chestertown, and I like to say my mother-in-law, being Italian and impulsive, drove across the bridge and said, we're moving here. My wife was terrified. She had lived in rural western Maryland before. I've always lived in cities. I grew up in Greenwich Village, the West Village. I lived in Baltimore for 20 years. And so what was I doing here? Well, my experience of living in Chestertown is that it is not unlike living in Greenwich Village. You know, and people usually look at me like I'm nuts when I say that. But if you think of New York as a bunch of small neighborhoods, and every neighborhood is about 2 square blocks. In those 2 square blocks, everyone knows who you are. You know the person who runs the grocery store, the person you buy your newspaper from. Go to the 3rd block, nobody knows who you are. My shop is downtown. It's about 2 square blocks. Everybody knows me. They know my kids. And now we even have good bread here. So it's very much like New York as far as I'm concerned. I remember the week that we moved here, the weekend, I bought the Kent County News, and I was reading through the obituaries, and the headline of this obituary said, Baltimore woman, 91, dies. And I read the obituary, and she had moved here to Chestertown when she was 2 years old. But she was still a Baltimore woman 89 years later. You know, so there was a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? But you know, what I like about this place, and what to me is the wonderful thing about this place, is the scale. When I lived in Baltimore with Pam, it was just the 2 of us. We were involved in the arts. We did a lot of music there. I owned a business in Baltimore City. I was involved in neighborhoods, and all of those things. And the scale of it was such that it was like trying to fill an empty glass. You could pour everything you wanted into it, but it really wasn't going to make a lot of difference. You know, my sense here, for better or for worse, is that it's small enough that if you want to get involved, you can. If you are patient and I think are willing to work, you can make a difference in small ways. And in some ways, you know, you never know. You know, you can touch people here. And so when I think forward, I like to think in terms of what can be. And what can be, I think, you know, there are a lot of good people here. Actually, the truth is, there are a lot of good people everywhere. But one of the things that I think happens potentially here is that there's more opportunity for those people to engage, to make a difference. I really think that's the strength of what we have here. So when I think in terms of diversity, sure, there are moments I despair. There are moments that I fear that with the economy being what it is, with opportunity being less than people hope it can be, that we're going to make bad choices. But on the other side of the coin, I just really believe that I just see too many potentially good things in terms of people stepping up, people not being willing to let the way things have been done in the past be the way we're going to do them in the future. My sense of coming here was, gosh, we're an hour and a half from like 12 million people. 12 million people who could come, who can get away from the cities, come here, take a learning vacation, experience what we have. I mean, we have a small town where people actually make things. Where, be it bread, be it furniture, be it things made of steel, be it books. And I think, food. We make everything here that you could need to live. You don't find that in a lot of places anymore.